Today on What Now? Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni is marking his 40th year in office, but he's seeking a 7th term in the country's upcoming presidential election scheduled for next month. And also in focus, Nigeria among 15 nations to face some categories of restrictions under the latest U.S. visa policy. Hello and thanks for joining us. You're watching What Now? I am Precious Amayu. We start here in Africa, where Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni is seeking his 7th term in office in the January 15th presidential election. This election will kick off Africa's 2026 election calendar. He and his National Resistance Movement, that's the NRM party, are running on a campaign theme of protecting the gains, making a qualitative leap into high middle income status. This election cycle marks the 40th anniversary of the former revolutionary military leader's tenure in power, the third longest on the African continent, trailing behind Teodoro Obiang Nguema of Equatorial Guinea and Paul Biya of Cameroon. 81-year-old Museveni has extended his time in office by eliminating previously established term limits in 2005 and 2017. Uganda's political campaign this year, characterized by violence, that has led the leading opposition candidate, Bobi Wine, of the National Unity Party, to liken it to a war zone. President Yoweri Museveni's 51-year-old Muhoozi Kainerugaba is reportedly widely viewed as being groomed for the presidency as part of a planned hereditary succession. Let's bring in global affairs analyst David Matsanga. He joins me. He's a Ugandan and joins me virtually. Good to have you join us, Mr. Matsanga.
Thank you very much, my sister, for again inviting me on your television. This is the second time I think I've been here, and yes, I'm ready to go.
Absolutely. And the first time we did talk about Africa, but the second time is specifically more about your country, where President Yoweri Museveni is seeking his 7th term in office, 40th year in office as well. And this is, election will hold from 15th of January. I just want to get your thought on that and how Ugandans are reacting to, the possibility of having him for the 7th term.
First of all, I am one of the oldest political opposition leaders in Uganda. As you know, I've been in exile for 40 years, and I opposed. First, I became one of the most toughest critics before Besigye and Bob Wine came on the scene, because Bob Besigye was working with President Museveni. I and other people remained opposed. We were, until 2008, when we solved the crisis of northern Uganda, we shook hands. We allowed peace, and the peace returned to our country. 2, the situation of President Museveni is going to win the elections. I want to tell you the truth. I want to say the truth here on this television station so that the world knows. He will win an election because the opposition in Uganda is fragmented into particles of several. Everybody wants to become the president against one formidable candidate. How will you win? The manifesto of President Museveni sells itself. He's selling his manifesto. Mr. Bob Wine is only in the region where he was born. And that is why you see quite a lot of pressure, because that is the biggest. It is like talking about the Igbo, the Shona, the Zulu, the Kikuyu, the Baganda, the Ashanti. That's the biggest, community in Uganda as we speak. So Bob Wine is born from there. Most of his votes, apart from 1 to 2 seats that came outside Buganda region, came from my constituency, from my cousin brother who went on the other side. But I think in a nutshell for you, the opposition will not win.
So basically, you're saying that the political landscape in Uganda has neither changed nor shifted since the last victory secured by President Museveni.
It hasn't. It has shifted so greatly that President Museveni could even get about 80% of the vote, because one, he has put up his agenda very clearly, and the campaign has been very peaceful since, compared to other campaigns where we used to see a lot of violence until a few weeks ago, when things started changing to a level where there has been skirmishes, running battles with the police, especially in the region of Uganda region, where all candidates seem to be focusing on to get the biggest number of the votes, which is the most documented voters come from a region of about 18 million people. Out of those, about, let's say, 9 million people are registered to vote, or 6 to 9 million people are registered to vote. So everybody is scrambling for that vote in the region. So that is the position. I don't want to lie to you that the Bob Wine will have a chance to win that election. President Museveni will win that election, and you can call me back here after 16th or 15th of January. I will be vindicated.
His inability to win that election, we're talking about Bobby Wine, you have said he will not win, and if we're to go by your statement, are we saying that, look, his inability to win is because the opposition is not united, or because he doesn't have the support base on the ground?
Both. One is not united. Two, the support base is based in his tribal area where I was born. Three, ideology. There's nothing they are selling us. Alternative government, alternative opposition, like the one you see in Ghana, like the one you see in your country, Peter Obi and Atiku. That type of opposition that has got ideology, that type of opposition that does not only sing that when we win, we shall come for you. When we do this, we shall come for you. We shall do this. We shall do that. That type of opposition, my dear sister, cannot win an election with the incumbent. Put an idea across. Yes, put an idea across. Uganda has not blocked anyone.
And if I may come in, Mr. Matsanga, because what you're talking about now was what we saw in the last election in Senegal, where all of the opposition came together and ensured that President Yoweri became the president in the wake of the detention of Ousmane Sonko. What is the challenge to, in terms of having the opposition in Uganda organize themselves as a formidable force?
It's division. Everybody wants presidency. I'm one of the elders, but I don't want that presidency. I've been in opposition for over 40 years until we shook hands with President Museveni, as I've told you. And we ended the war in northern Uganda. But the problem with opposition in Uganda is, one, they have never thought of fielding one formidable candidate, put resources together. Unlike Kenya, where we had the late Raila Odinga putting candidates together, putting all the parties together and facing Uhuru Kenyatta and facing William Ruto. In Uganda, everybody wants the leadership. Everybody wants to be the president. There is no coordination at all. So this is a waste of time, a waste of resources for the opposition to say they are going to do what? What are they going to do? There is no manifesto, clear manifesto. If you win the elections, you are talking about President Museveni, President Museveni only. What are you sell to Ugandans what you want to go and do when you win that election? That is what we are waiting for. But at the moment, my sister, when we win election, we shall come for you. That's what they tell President Museveni.
Mr. Masanga, if I may come in here because of time, I'm trying to manage the time I have left, because some people have said, look, Bobby Wine, when you look at some of his campaigns that he's been allowed to have, that you see the crowd that really shows up in those campaigns, and they refer to them as a support base, the young people who want a change. But that the biggest challenge is that this, like with every other election in Uganda, is being characterized by intimidation and violence directed against the opposition. I want you to speak to that and to the normalization of violence around elections in Uganda, and that also follows a pattern in the East African region.
But it is not only in East African region. Your place in Nigeria, 94 million people registered to vote. Tell me how many people voted. 26 million point something voted for Tinubu. The rest of 68 went into Atlantic Ocean and disappeared. You remember that? The same. But you look at the Nigerian election. There is no election in Africa which does not have a bit of chest bumping, slaps here and there, because people have not yet learned how to be one man, one vote, vote, go home. We have adapted, we have got very wrong systems of American type of presidency, instead of going for parliamentary systems, where people, the biggest number of MPs you have, you form a government, like in South Africa. Everybody goes home to listen to the results. In most of these countries in East Africa, people want to stay on the polling stations and even manage the vote, seeing exactly what is taking place. Even the crowd, that is not where things are going wrong. Some of them don't want to accept the law, the code of conduct in the region. You talked about the region. Look at the man in Tanzania. He did not want to even sign the code of conduct. Like when I play football, we shall be playing like this, like that. He said he doesn't want. And lastly, one of the things that hurts me most, my sister, is most of the opposition parties in Africa are sponsored by the West. The West sponsors them, pays them to go and harass the government. Now, the West is all the time looking at the key mistakes that the governments form. Ugandans are peaceful. We want to pray that they are peaceful, they remain peaceful. Some of us have seen the violence that has made us stay in exile for 40 years. We wouldn't like to see another violence in our country. Otherwise, I think President Museveni will win that election very comfortably with about 80%, if I'm not wrong.
We are following that election and all of the developments before January. Thank you so much for your time, as always. International relations expert, founder, Pan-African Forum Limited, Dr. David Matsanga.
Thank you very much, my sister, for the second time. God bless you. Always call me. I'll be ready to say my truth. Absolutely. And I have nothing to hide at my age. Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, we'll take a break now. We are still focusing on Africa, but this time on